Hey everybody, welcome to today's lecture. Today we'll talk about area and perimeter, and we will focus more on rectangles and squares. Okay, this is basic concepts on what is the area and perimeter of both rectangles and squares. So some of you may already know it, so just take it as a refresher for you. Now, before we move on, a quick note. You will actually have this worksheet in front of you, and you will need to do two things for me. Well, actually three, but the first one is to watch the video, which is what you're doing now. The second is actually summarize. Okay, so you will need to summarize some of the key points, and to make things easy for you as a start, I've given you fill in the blanks. Okay, so just fill in the blanks, you will get the answers as you watch the video. The next part is to have questions. Okay, now you need to listen carefully. For questions, you need to write down one question that you have after watching the video. So after you have watched the video, you may have some questions. So write down that question in the box. Or if you don't have questions you've understood perfectly, you may want to look at the second one, where it is a question that you think your friends might have. Okay, so something that you think that your friends might have, or if you can't think of anything, you can actually do the third thing, and that is to design questions that is related to the video. That you can ask your friends to solve. So you can actually come up with questions, maths questions that you can ask your friends, okay, related to area and perimeter of squares and rectangles. Okay? Right, so let's jump into the lesson itself. So the first thing you need to understand is what is a perimeter. Okay? Like I mentioned before, perimeter is, well, I didn't mention this already. Okay, so perimeter is basically if I have this rectangle, the perimeter is the outline of this rectangle. Okay, the outline of this rectangle. So for a rectangle, the perimeter is actually length plus breadth plus length plus breadth. Okay, so it's length plus breadth plus length plus breadth. Okay, so I have to add all four of these. Okay, length plus breadth plus length plus breadth. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. Now, given this question, so I now have a perimeter. Okay, I have a perimeter of 18 cm, and I know my length, which is 6 cm. Can I find the breadth of this rectangle? Answer is yes. Now, because I know that the perimeter is length plus breadth plus length plus breadth, actually my length plus breadth, okay, my length plus breadth is equal to half of the perimeter. Okay, length plus breadth, this, I'm going to highlight this, this plus this, plus this, okay, this is half of the perimeter, because if I were to shade the other side, this plus this is the other half. Okay, so this is a key concept that you need to understand. Alright, length plus breadth is equals to half the perimeter. So if I take half the perimeter, which is 18, divided by 2, and that will give me 9. So 9 consists of length plus breadth. So length plus breadth is equals to 9. Alright, I mean, another way of looking at it is, let's use number bonds. This is 9. Okay, length is 6. What is this? If my length is 6, what is this? Okay, so, I'm sorry, looks awful. So you know that 6 plus 3 will give me 9. So my breadth is equal to 3. Alright, or how we do it is actually do 9 minus 6. Okay, that will give me 3 cm. Right, so this is quite fairly straightforward. So recap again, length plus breadth will be half the perimeter. So if I can take this perimeter, I divide it by 2, I will be able to find the length plus breadth. And since I know my length, I will take my the length plus breadth minus off my length, I will get my breadth. Okay? Alright, so it shouldn't, It's quite straightforward. Now, when we look at a square, okay, now one thing you have to understand for square is all four sides are equal. So this side is equal to this side, is equal to this side, is equal to this side. All four sides are equal. So length plus length plus length plus length will be the perimeter of my square. Okay, and if that's the case, then if I have the perimeter which is 64 cm square, 64 cm, what is one of the length? Now I don't have any of these sides, but because you know that these are all equal, it is the same as looking at 4 units is 64. Okay, because they are all equal, so each can be considered 1 unit. So then 1 unit is 64 divided by 4. And that will give me, what's that? Oh, let's work it out. 64 divided by 4. 1, 4, minus of 2. Bring down the 4. 4. 6 times 4, 24. So this will be my answer. Okay. So 64 divided by 4 is 16. So the length of the square is 16 centimeters. Okay? Alright, so it's quite straightforward. Now let's move on to area. Okay, when we look at area, this is the formula for calculating area. This you have already learnt, that the area of a rectangle is length times breadth. Okay, so if I have an unknown, alright, if I have 9 as my length, I don't know what's my breadth, but I do know my area, okay, which is 64 meters square. How do I find the breadth? So, quite simple, because length times breadth is equals to the area, which is 63. I know my length, so 9 times breadth is equals to 63. So how do I find my breadth? So my breadth, I'm going to write it down here, is actually equal to 63 divided by 9, and that will give me 7. So my breadth is 7 meters. Now let's check. If this is 7 meters, 7 times 9, it gives me 63. So I am correct. Area of square, how would that work out? How that looks like? Now square, again, length and length is the same, so the area is just length times length. It's the same concept. Okay, for four-sided figures is one side times the other side. Alright, so given the area, which is 81 cm square, what is the length of the square? What's the length of the square? So I know length times length is equal to 81. Now for this case, you need to do a little guess and check, because you need to figure out these two numbers must be the same. So what times what, and they are the same number. What number times what number, which is the same, will give me 81. 2 times 2, it can be 3 times 3, and so on and so forth. And you should figure out that it's actually 9 times 9. That gives me 81. Okay, some of you will know that I can actually do this thing called what we call a square root. Alright, but you are not required to learn this yet, so I don't blame you if you have no idea how to do this. Alright, so all you need to do is just do a little bit of guess and check. Okay, just ask yourself, these two numbers are supposed to be the same, what times what gives me 81. Okay, so that's it. Alright, so let's very quickly recap again what we've learned. For perimeter, it's length times plus breadth plus length plus breadth. Basically, perimeter is the outline of the figure. Okay, same with the square. And so given the perimeter and given just one side, I can actually find the other side, because length plus breadth is actually half the perimeter. Same with area. Area is length times breadth. Given the area and given just one side, I can actually find the other side by dividing. Okay. For area of square, all four sides are the same, so it's length times length. What I do is I do a little bit of guess and check to find out what times what gives me the area. Okay. So basically that's it. Area and perimeter of both rectangles and squares. Easy, right? So please don't forget to fill up your summary, okay, as well as come up with a question. And when we come back to class, we will have a little short discussion about the questions that you have before we move on and do the workbook. Okay? Alright, see you guys.